Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name is Calabucas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups of the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified when a new show comes online. If you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and drop a note on Apple Podcasts. If you like the show, a review would go a long way. Thank you so much. So, let's talk a bit about talk versus action. And this is something I've thought about for a really long time, and I think the biggest reason why this is a thing for me is that because we seem to be living in a land of hypocrisy, in a land of do what I say, not what I do. Because we seem to be surrounded by, let's call it, the appearance of doing something as opposed to the actual fact of doing something. I'll give you an example. So the difference between, say, something like market research and design thinking is that with market research, you ask customers, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? You get customers into a room and you describe scenarios and you have them say to you, well, I think I'd do this in that situation, or I think I'd do that in that situation. And the thing is that that's speculation. It's not reality. It's speculation. It is the customer speculating on how they would act in that situation. It's not the customer acting the way they would act in that situation. It is the customer speculating on how they would act in that situation. It's kind of like the difference between anxiety and fear. You know the difference between anxiety and fear, right? Fear is being tied to the railway tracks when a train is coming at you. Anxiety is thinking about being tied to the railway tracks and a train coming at you. I think that's the big difference between market research and design thinking, is that with market research, you're asking the customer to speculate on what they think they might do. Now, while that might be useful, it's not reality. It's not real. This is why we need to create MVPs and put them out into the world and have people actually using a product. Because if we don't have people actually using a product, we can't get to the reality of what people feel about a product, what people think about a product. Because it's all about action versus talk. Because that's the difference, if you ask me, between market research and design thinking. Market research and building an MVP is that you have talk with market research. In fact, you have talk with design thinking. The only time you get real feedback on what a customer thinks about your product is when they're actually using it. But then you say to yourself, well, I'm not going to spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars building a product if nobody's going to use it. So there's always this gap. There's always this gap between what a customer says they're going to do and what they're actually going to do. So that's why I say, when you look at market research, design thinking, building a product and actually putting it into people's hands, you're seeing various degrees of certainty on whether or not people will actually use your product. The spectrum between talking about using your product and actually using your product, and then actually paying for your product, it's a broad spectrum. And the reality is that even if you have people, you do some market research and they say to you, yes, this is an amazing product, I would love to use this product, and I would pay X for this product, all that is BS. Because when push comes to shove, when the customer actually has to act to use your product, that's when the rubber hits the road and you have true usage. You have a true understanding of what the customer is actually looking for. You have a true understanding of what the customer actually will do. Action is more important than talk. Action, when a customer actually does something, physically does something, only then are you sure of the directions of their thoughts. Only then are you sure of their feelings or how they feel about your product. Only when they actually use your product, when they interact with your product, And when they pay for your product, only then will you have the surety that your product is something that's in demand or it's not in demand. This is why an MVP is so important. And this is why we need to go there as soon as humanly possible. Because until a customer acts, you don't know if this is really going to go anywhere. That's it for me for today. See you next time. And until then, don't forget to think future.